BetterHelp, once one of the biggest things on YouTube, now effectively dead.
BetterHelp is one of the biggest YouTube sponsors of the past decade and was exposed
Sadly, didn't get any money from them, and I would have taken that sponsorship deal. Hell, even after they got exposed, I would have still taken that, because you know if you know.
for exploiting vulnerable users, using unqualified therapists, and selling sensitive user data. It seemed like the scandal was the end of them, with tens of thousands of users unsubscribing, hundreds of angry comments on videos sponsored by BetterHelp, and their parent company stock crashing 97%.
Dude, this is hilarious. You know what's my favorite part, honestly, about BetterHelp? It's not that it was a blatant scam. It's not that it was a blatant ripoff. It's not that it was stupid even as a concept. It was the fact that BetterHelp, and there were other, by the way, sponsorships and channels that did this. What was the one where you could buy a plot in Scotland and become a lord or whatever that garbage was called, okay? But a bunch of YouTubers also sold that thing. My favorite part about BetterHelp and things like this is that they are typically sold by the, oh, I'm such a good guy YouTuber. I stand for credibility, research, and doing all of that stuff. Yeah, that's always a lie. Remember, when some person always is trying to be the best, the greatest, Mr. Positive constantly, Mr. Oh, I'm gonna do always good for everyone, they're typically a blatant liar. Those people almost don't exist in real life, okay? And especially not in that way. So, yeah, the most scummiest sponsorships for the most scummiest, oh look at me, I'm such a wholesome person channels. Great stuff.
But now they're back, sponsoring more creators than ever. But are they
Hey,
actually
they haven't sponsored me. Well, what the hell, BetterHelp?
better?
No.
Anxiety, depression, and many other mental health disorders are huge challenges for many. Not only that, but they've been on
Typically for people on the left side of the aisle.
the rise for some time, yet simultaneously, traditional therapy is inaccessible to many people. It's expensive, it requires physical presence, and is frankly just less flexible than what online services usually offer. That's
I remember watching a video about this, and when you do the math on how much it costs to actually use BetterHelp and whatnot, you're actually getting a better deal just going to a real life psychiatrist. Money wise, at the bare minimum.
where BetterHelp came in. They launched in 2013 and they seemed like a game changer. Patients signed up and were matched with a therapist and had sessions via call, text, video, whichever they were most comfortable with. If they didn't connect with their therapist, they could be matched to a new one. No cost, no hassle. Not only that, but it was cheaper than most traditional.
Dude, by the way, this is one of the dark sides of therapy and whatnot. And this exemplifies it perfectly. If you don't know what's one of the worst things about therapy, let me fill you in on that. It's the fact that people go to therapy not to better themselves, but literally just find a yes man. Who will say that, oh, yeah, you were completely right to flip the table at the family gathering because someone had a red shirt on them and you thought that it's supporting Trump, but it's just a red shirt. Yeah, you were completely in the right for flipping a table and threatening to kill a child. Yeah, that's what therapy turns out to be. It's just it's just a session of a therapist saying, yes, 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 nothing wrong with you, nothing you need to change, nothing to reevaluate about your life. You're already perfect as you are. Because if a therapist doesn't say these things, guess what? The person's gonna leave. How do you think millennials go to therapy? That's exactly how they go to therapy. They just want someone to say, yes, you are morally superior and you should feel that way and you did nothing wrong.
New one. No cost, no hassle. Not only that, but it was cheaper than most traditional practices, meaning that therapy was now far more accessible to those who needed it, which is great. Over the coming years, BetterHelp started building momentum. By
I think therapy can be useful in a couple of cases, but the reality is, therapy is just an extremely easy way of taking no responsibility for your actions and not trying to deal with shit on your own. Okay, how many people say? How many YouTubers, big YouTubers, have used going to therapy as an excuse for their shitty behaviors? Many, many.
2018, they were sponsoring thousands of YouTubers, and the company exploded in popularity. The pandemic had confined everyone indoors, and demand for remote therapy was at an all-time high. BetterHelp naturally capitalized on this opportunity by spending more than $7 million on podcast sponsorships in December of 2020 alone. They spent $38.7 million in total for 2020, making them the highest spender on podcasts. But
Wow.
during BetterHelp's rise, the cracks
I
slowly
think Joe Rogan even had a BetterHelp sponsorship.
began to appear. Firstly, users
I think he had one even now.
started reporting some strange experiences with their platform, many of which had a common theme.
My first therapist was 10 minutes late to our 10-minute meeting, our first initial meeting. And then she was like, oh, wow, we don't have a lot of time. And then she kept trying to sell me her book. So I contacted them and I got a different therapist. He was also late and just completely missed our first meeting. We set a second one. He missed that one. And then he just texted like, oh man, I'm so sorry. I was at my other job. And I was just like, what the
Okay, if you're a qualified therapist, how the hell do you need a second job? Therapists get paid a lot of money. Actually, let's check it out. I don't know how much therapists do get paid. Average American therapist salary. See what we have here, boys. Average American therapist salary. How much do therapists make in the US? $77K a year. $37.2 per hour. And up to $110K per year if you have experience. Yeah, and the starting position is literally $60K per year. That's a pretty sweet job. Literally no way you're gonna ever need a second job doing that unless you're mentally retarded.
The quality of therapists varied wildly. Some saw their therapist cooking or shopping mid-session, which naturally makes patients feel uncomfortable. One patient, after discussing career goals, had her therapist send her a patronizing YouTube video to watch after their session that told her, it's natural to want to do big things, even if it's never going to happen for you. Another patient had the therapist encourage them to put.
By the way, again, this person just doesn't want a therapist. He just that person just wants. I'm assuming it's a she instantaneously. By the way, she probably just wants someone who says, "Yeah, you can do it," and they're not even gonna most likely try to do it. They're just gonna do it. So you see how being a therapist and actually trying to help people is inconvenient. Well, not inconvenient, but bad for your business. Because people just want someone who's gonna tell them, yeah, you're perfect the way you are, snowflake.
For you. Another patient had the therapist encourage them to put their baby up for adoption because their friend really wanted a baby. One Reddit user shared a horrifying experience. He implied that his life was almost perfect and that I should be like him. At a certain moment, he wanted to imply I had signs of narcissism in me, and having suffered from narcissistic abuse pretty much my whole life, that was very hard to hear. I had never.
That does make slight sense, but let's read this fully. When I signed up for BetterHelp, I was matched with a therapist that wasn't really responsive, so I solicited a change of counselor. This time I could pick somebody. I went for one that looked right for me. What the fuck do you mean? I'm sorry. It's 2024. And evil Trump is still not. You can't judge people on how they look. Non-gay shirt. He was very responsive, and on the very first day we arranged our first video chat. He was a bit odd, but some of the things he said made sense, so I decided to book another video chat for the next day. Like Like, did I know I was about to be humiliated and belittled by this man? The tone of the conversation was completely different. He implied that his life was almost perfect and that I should be like him. How do you even get these things? How, like, I'm seeing so many red flags in the decision making and text that is written here that, by the way, is narcissistic. Because this person is kind of implying that he himself knows everything better from the fact that, oh, finally I got to get to pick the person I want, and I, just by looking at them, definitely know what they're gonna be like, and it's gonna be perfect. And the first time you do it, you're like, yeah, this was my choice, it's all good, because it's essentially the honeymoon phase. And then the second chat is like, oh, I'm no longer stoked about the fact that I had to pick this person myself, and the honeymoon phase ends. I just from this text alone, I can completely understand why someone called this person who wrote this narcissistic. Because it's blatantly fucking true. His life was almost perfect and I should be like him. I don't know even if he implied this. It's again, I'm having a hard time to trust anything this person says because they clearly are an idiot, but whatever. He also used his age to say, I don't know anything about life. Yeah? Oh, by the way, this is someone young. Again, this is more narcissism just shining out throughout. Because someone older is telling you, hey, when you get a little bit older, something's gonna change. And in a lot of cases, that's true. Like, for example, if you're like 19, 18, 20, or whatever, a lot of things are going to change. You know, until the point of 25 and you understand your life is over and as a human you have hit rock bottom and now it's going to get just worse. You know, things change until that point, and then you just come to terms with stuff. And if you're a woman, you take until 35, and then you understand, holy shit, my prince on the white horse is never going to be there. So yeah, this does make sense. This person probably is extremely self-censored and egotistic. I felt that everything I said was being used against me. If you say stupid shit, that's how it happens, and considering how much stupid shit was written just here, I believe that. At a certain moment, he wanted to imply I had signs of narcissism in me. The fact that you actually can catch this so easily means that you yourself on some level understand that you're a narcissist, but you don't think that's a problem. And having suffered from narcissistic abuse pretty much my whole life, there we go, just blaming every problem you have on someone else. That was very hard to hear. And again, you see, this is a person who just doesn't want a therapist. They don't want to better themselves. All they want to do is just have someone say, you're perfect, snowflake. God, I hate this. I had never felt this unsafe with a therapist before. Burning through therapists fast, huh? Because this sentence alone implies that this was not your second therapist. Most likely, this person just serial changes therapists because someone. The moment they probably say that something that they did was their fault, it's over. They're just on to the next one. He admitted himself to being a narcissist. Kind of hard to imagine that. Close to the end of the session, while I couldn't stop crying, and every time I tried to say something, I would cry even more. He said, now you have 1 minute to share your final thoughts before our time is over. Yeah, that's how shit fucking works, dude. He said he said it that way. Cold, distant, not addressing any of my emotions. You're probably a complete, vapid non-existence of a human, okay?
Never felt this unsafe with a therapist before. He admitted himself to being a narcissist. Thankfully, this user received the therapy they needed outside of BetterHelp. However, despite their trauma and only using the service for less than a week, BetterHelp only refunded 50% of the month's subscription. Putting the money aside though, what the hell was going on there? How are so many BetterHelp therapists so awful? Well, as it turns out, BetterHelp employed many unqualified therapists. According to them, it was the patient's job to verify if the therapist was qualified.
This one says that they don't guarantee the verification
Yeah, that is probably the most hilarious part about BetterHelp.
Of the skills, degrees, qualifications, certification, credentials,
By the way, BetterHelp could have easily avoided all of this by just telling their therapists, you don't need to fix them. That's not your actual job here. You just need to agree with these people to anything that they say. BetterHelp could have survived probably 4 or 5 more years living in the green, living the lifestyle. Okay? If they just actually had a bunch of. They told that to their therapists. Hey, you're fired unless you always agree with the patient, okay? The patient has never done anything wrong in their life. They admitted to killing a person, hiding the corpse. What a brave individual, because not a lot of people are so brave to do something like that. You're awesome, okay? That's how they should handle every situation.
competence, or background of any counselor. With BetterHelp,
Also, is that PewDiePie?
you'll be talking to professionals. Just beware that it's your responsibility
Yeah, seems a lot like PewDiePie, huh?
to determine whether they are or not. It's your responsibility to determine whether they have any degree or qualification or certification or all these things.
Once users learned of this, the controversy exploded. BetterHelp quickly removed this from their terms in 2018, but the damage had already been done. The evidence was damning. If vulnerable patients experience horrible therapy, it can very well prevent them from getting help in the future, even from traditional practices.
My one session with a BetterHelp therapist re-traumatized me to the point where I don't know if I'll ever go back to therapy again.
Shockingly, that's
That is so funny. Yes, it is funny. I feel no guilt.
not even the end of it. BetterHelp was concealing another massive problem that caught the eyes of the US government.
Tax evasion? Oh,
Somehow,
no.
BetterHelp returned. The company has recently emerged with a wave of new YouTube sponsorships and a brand new marketing campaign. In Q3 of 2022, they sponsored 392 YouTube videos. 1 year later, they sponsored just under 2,000 videos. In March of 2024 alone, they spent $8.2 million on podcast advertising. Their marketing strategy is aggressive, as they are determined to recover their brand image and to claim back their market share. But
It's gonna be hard because BetterHelp. This is the problem, right? BetterHelp is targeting gamers and people of, effectively these types, right? Gamers, podcast enthusiasts, and all things of that nature. And the problem here is, well, ridiculously simple, isn't it? It's the fact that these people that they are targeting are probably way more keenly aware to how bad BetterHelp actually is. Because they are probably going to watch the videos ripping on BetterHelp. So they're trying to target an audience that hates them and is going to be is the most likely to uncover that they're bad.
have they improved their service? Well, their number of therapists has increased dramatically. In 2021, they had a total of 16,000 therapists, but by 2024, they have 34,000.
Man, I would not be surprised if this is like the total amount of therapists in America. How many therapists are there? Well, this is actually the instantaneous fill-in for. Wow, okay. Oh, no. There are 200k therapists. Okay, so they have what? 15%? Oh, no. This is 200k therapists and only 80k psychologists. And we're talking about psychologists. Oh, wait, now are we talking about psychologists or therapists in general? Because it should be a psychologist. Not sure. Well, in any case, either they have almost 50% of all the people in the US that can fill this role, or 15. And that is a ridiculous number. That is a ridiculous number.
A massive leap. What BetterHelp really needed, though, wasn't quantity, it was quality. BetterHelp states that it only accepts 15% of therapists who apply, but the testimony...
Wait. 15 therapists, 15% Okay, I'm not going to do the math, but effectively this means that BetterHelp has been contacted than more than 230,000 therapists in the United States, which means that's more therapists than exist in the United States by the statistic. So this is a blatant lie. There's not enough therapists in the United States to cover this 15% number.
These are still concerning. In 2024, a clinical psychologist tried the platform as a client and had a strange experience with their therapist. Seemed ill at ease and unsure how to proceed. She made inappropriate self-disclosures about her own health problems. When I mentioned the problem with night eating, I saw a weird expression come across her face, and she mentioned that she struggled with the same problem.
Dude, these people are so bad. Isn't like one of the golden rules of being a therapist in the first place to not talk about yourself, but only about the client?
Without much assessment, she offered solutions that were absurd. She suggested I monitor the night eating and give yourself a star as a reward. He described that his second therapist threw out a bunch of tips from her therapy trick bag and hoped that some might stick. And while they seemed like plausible solutions, she didn't investigate my experience in detail enough to know if they could be appropriate. The structure and setup of the platform may make therapists jittery, pressing them into achieving quick results and using superficial interventions. Another user who tried the platform stated, "My therapist was great, but definitely was not 100% present. She seemed distracted." BetterHelp still seems to place an emphasis on quantity over quality. This is bad, but it's made even worse by how BetterHelp markets its service. In 2020, the journalism website Jezebel began investigating something
Oh yeah, Jezebel, what a great source.
unsettling. As it turned out, BetterHelp was taking users' extremely personal information and selling them to advertisers. Jezebel stated that they began to silently slip data to dozens of third parties, monitoring our behavior online and signaling to companies like Facebook and
To be fair, we knew this for a long time.
Google and Snapchat and Pinterest that we were considering BetterHelp treatment. Facebook, for instance, is alerted every time a person opens the app, essentially signaling to the social media company how often we were going to a session and when we booked our appointments. BetterHelp didn't even deny the allegations, as they didn't see the issue. They stated that their methods were standard and that they typically far exceed all applicable regulatory, ethical, and legal requirements. However, this didn't exactly comfort users.
It's probably not even that much of a blatant lie, most likely. That's just a stretching of the truth because the regulations... I'm assuming the regulations for stuff like this are not exactly written in stone and what, right?
Word of these practices soon spread, and people were outraged. This was an immense breach of privacy. Many online platforms do sell user data, but this was different. Traditional therapy has something called...
By the way, therapy has something that doesn't allow them to leak the information that they gathered. Dude, this data, though, by the way, probably was extremely expensive because there's nothing more valuable than an insane person who's not yet insane enough to be removed from society, because those people are gonna buy wild shit. And that's probably extremely valuable.
The patient privilege. Information shared between a patient and their therapist is completely confidential because the details are extremely personal.
Well, not completely. There are situations where the shrinks are supposed to give their information to, law enforcement officers and whatnot.
Maybe it could be argued that app usage data is not technically covered by patient privilege, but it's definitely in gray area. I suppose BetterHelp forgot to mention this in their list of benefits over traditional practices. A storm was growing around BetterHelp, and it was about to get worse. The US Federal Trade Commission took action against BetterHelp, and the list of accusations was damning. To capitalize on these consumers' health information, BetterHelp handed it over to numerous third-party advertising platforms, including Facebook, Pinterest, Snapchat, and Criteo, often permitting these companies to use the information for their own research and product development as well. BetterHelp also failed to provide consumers with proper notice as to the collection, use, and disclosure of their health information. The company didn't admit to any charges, but was ordered to pay $7.8 million in refunds to 800,000 patients, which equated to a pitiful $10 per person.
So, what was this, mass action lawsuit? Huh?
Importantly, though, BetterHelp was forbidden from sharing consumers' personal information for retargeting, among many other restrictions. BetterHelp's reputation was ruined, and many YouTubers promoting them started receiving severe backlash.
That's true. I don't. There's so many of the YouTubers who received backlash, by the way, again, were people who like, oh, if you do a sponsorship, you're supposed to research anything. I still fucking remember the thing in Scotland where you could become a lord or whatever. What was that called? I don't remember it. But effectively, the most blatant goddamn rip-off scam, whatever you want to call it in the universe. Something titles it was. And one of the people who shilled him out hard was Mudahar, and he was one of the people who said, you always did. I always vet my sponsors, and I always check if what I'm selling is legit. Bro, you don't check shit. If you Google just one thing about that sponsorship, you would know it's fake ass BS. Okay? You just checked that other channels also have this sponsor, and you thought it's safe because of that. That's it. Oh, the backlash over BetterHelp was beautiful because it was only the channels that you hated. Anyway, I'm pretty much done with it. BetterHelp is never gonna return. There's no way. People know about it and whatnot. Anyway, that was logically answered. 10 out of 10. Have a nice day. Bye.